Good news.
Oh.
Everything is recording right now.
That like seriously, it's a huge part of this recording thing.
I know.
It's a huge part of recording.
Surprisingly enough, sometimes should happen.
So, yeah, backstory being we did a whole episode the other day, and when we were done, we realized
The audio
had like where typically people would rage. We
just
laughed and laughed.
Steve was literally on the floor laughing.
That thing where you like slowly just crouch down and just like, and I think because I said you had one job, Salim, so you folded down to record the audio on our audio recording podcast. It was great, and then we just did it again.
Yeah, it was even better.
We had a tea and we went again. Yep.
But now, first take.
We're recording, or is it the first take?
We'll see.
Nobody will know.
Nobody will know.
Could
Only
be the
us.
second take.
Now, a few episodes back, we talked about recording drums. That was a very good episode. I really enjoyed this.
That was, and the idea was to do it in two parts.
Yes.
So now it's part two.
Part two is good.
Part two.
After part one, part two.
I thought about it. I showered. I slept a few
Did
times. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And I use soap and everything.
Okay.
Do you shampoo your beard? With
do.
like head shampoo? Like the same stuff?
it's
You just like foam your whole head up?
Yes.
Are you in the shower like with foam everywhere?
I have a special kind of shampoo for my beard. Yeah.
Oh, so it's separate from your head stuff.
Yeah.
Oh, so you have extra products lined up in there.
Oh, man.
Beard shampoo.
It's weird, but yeah. That's the thing with a beard of this size,
of
which
that
is like
magnitude.
not the big. I saw, even bigger beards,
yeah.
but you need to take care of it.
You do.
So,
Or what happens?
I do oil, I do shampoo.
What happens if you don't take care of it?
I don't know. It's going to be
I want to find out.
What if you don't, clean yourself and soap, for a month?
It get funky.
How do you know? How would you know?
Jesse will tell you. She'd be like, "Don't get close to me, boy." So you have a special product.
Special product.
It allows you to continue your relationship.
But it's good for the skin also underneath
that's true. There's a lot going on under there.
Exactly. Stuff I don't even know.
The stuff we don't want to talk about. People might be eating right now.
Why do you think I'm not shaving my beard?
Yeah.
I don't want to be off YouTube for a month.
Yeah. No, you got banned. You got a takedown notice.
Demonetized.
You got a takedown notice for the beardless photo. Oh, what a silly thing we're doing right now. I love it. So
part two of the drums.
So part one was tracking those puppies, and part now is mixing said puppies.
Mixing.
And again, this is interesting to me, and where this first came up in my brain one sleepy moment was that you're on both sides of the glass.
Yes.
As a drummist, a drummerite, and a mix person. Mm-hmm. And so you have to deal with the ramifications of your previous choices.
Most of the time, yeah. I did record some, some drummers also, but most of the productions I worked on, I was a drummer.
Sure.
On top of the producer and mixing and recording engineer.
Yeah, crying and
all that stuff.
Yeah, that's great. I'm sure
not getting paid.
I was going to say, I'm sure you got an extra $500,000 for your other 10,000 hour talent. So that being said, it's interesting to me, even to be in a mix session. You do the mix session and like I'm producing something and the band is here and the bass player talks about bass and the singer talks about, oh, I sound terrible. And the drummer is like, hey, I have drummer thoughts from the couch, right? And so even when I'm mixing, I'm like, that's a wild drummer thought. Like I would have never, right? And so it is interesting then if I was that guy, the same way I would mix keyboards or piano or whatever, because that's what I do. I hear piano different than non-pianists.
Sure. Yeah.
And so you would hear, and so I've learned over the years from doing that how drummers think a bit. Like I learned, early on I was like, what's a ghost note and why are you so excited about them?
Exactly.
Right? And then I learned like, if I compress the bejesus out of the snare bottom
now
and
you
let the
get
ghost
a lot
note
of,
happen, and there's an entirely different groove in that verse.
Yes.
As soon as you let that, rather than just the backbeat, right? And so those little moves you learn, cymbal panning and all the things that drummers hear and think. So do you mix drummer perspective?
Oh, that's a good one. Drummer's perspective. Yeah. Unless I'm mixing a live recording
same.
that is on video.
Same.
If it's not on video, I don't care.
Same.
But if it's live
If
and
it's
we see
gonna
on
end up-
video, I'm gonna respect the audience perspective.
Yes,
at that
exactly.
point. Yeah.
If it's on camera, you don't want it to look weird, sound weird.
Exactly.
Same.
So, but the rest is, and the reason is simple. First of all, I'm a drummer, so I'm biased.
Yeah.
And also, when people listen to music, they play drums and stuff.
Yeah.
They're gonna go from left to right by themselves. This is how people kind of by default do it.
Nobody does In the Air Tonight the other way.
No.
Like
Exactly.
that's what we've just,
Exactly. So we're kind of used to
I've never
that.
thought of the air drum.
Yeah.
For me, it's just because that's what I grew up knowing.
Yeah.
Right? Like, the hi-hat's over there.
And the other reason is like if you don't want to have the drummer on your back, better mix drummer's perspective.
Angry drummers. Whew.
I didn't have that problem mixing my own drums, but
Angry at yourself.
that's it.
Chris is so mad at himself in there. Dad needs a minute. He's mad at the drummer.
Dad needs a minute.
Poor Dad. So, all right. So randomly.
Definitely,
sorry,
yeah.
I distracted myself. So, are you able to differentiate when you mix the sound of a mixed set of drums versus real drums?
Yes.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I know what you mean. It depends on the production.
If you walk into a room and
for
somebody's playing drum,
yes.
If you walk in and somebody's playing a sax, like, what is that noise? And you hear like,
but in a recording mix,
you hear like,
could be beautiful,
beautiful jazz record. You're like, that's a sax. Okay, so yes, do you while you're playing, do you process more to your headphones, or do you like natural drums?
Natural.
And then process.
I process after. I don't process on the way in.
Okay.
No, I don't process monitoring, like the monitoring side of things.
That's what I mean. Yeah.
No,
okay.
I don't. No, because I do direct anyways. I don't go through the DAW.
Okay.
When I monitor my own thing. So I don't want any type of delay, any type of
latency.
Latency, sorry.
Yeah.
Any type of latency, I'm going to hear it. The minute I hit the snare, even if it's at the buffer size at 128, I'm going to feel it right away. So I want to direct.
Your direct monitor.
Yeah. So I drew directly from the card, the interface, and that's it. So I don't mind if it's dry. I don't care about that.
And do you play things differently knowing they are going to get replaced if it's that type of project? Or do you just play and play?
Yeah, if I know that on purpose, as an artistic decision, everything's going to be replaced, like especially the snare, the toms and stuff. Yeah, I'm going to go easy on ghost notes, stuff like that.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm going to play differently.
It does change a bit.
Usually that will happen in a more pop type of track,
Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm going to play differently in that sense if I know in advance that this is part of the arrangement.
Fair.
Yeah.
Okay, so on to mixing. When you start building a drum mix, where do you start? Are you start with kick?
Overheads. I just turn up the overheads, then bring up the snare to kick. They work together.
I switched to the overhead first thing a couple years ago, and it changed my mixing.
Oh yeah, it's fun.
It changed my mixing.
It's fun. Just get I don't know why, but room they will come last. But overheads,
overheads to start there.
I just want to know what's
the
happening.
sound of the drums.
Yeah.
When I mix,
I just want to know what's happening.
One of the things it did, I realized right away. For me, I've never thought about this till right now, is that it changed the way, even when I'm replacing, it changed the sample choices I made immediately.
Yes.
If I spend some time with the overheads, the kick now isn't just like the one that would sound great by itself, if that's all I heard.
Yeah.
It's now the one that's fitting better. And same with snare.
Depending on what is the approach you're going to take with the overheads. Mm-hmm. And that depends on how the overheads the microphone were placed.
Go on.
Meaning that, are you going to focus, and this is also kind of a recording thing. I don't even know. I don't remember if we covered that, but on the last episode. But one question you need to ask yourself, is the overhead job recording like the cymbals, focusing on the cymbals, or
I get you.
The whole kit?
I get you.
The way you're going to process things or mix things is going to be way different.
And it's interesting when you listen to mixes now, you can hear that.
Yes.
There are drum mixes where it's like big fill and it's like you hear crash, crash. Like just tucked in there. Cymbals are very soft in modern. I noticed
Yes,
now.
No, it's not.
They're
you're right.
tucked down in there. Where back in the day, it was like that was 80% of the kit.
Yes.
Was the room and the...
Yeah, not anymore.
Now, and it's like you just hear cymbals like tucked, hard panned in there, and the rest is like the kick and the snare.
Totally.
And it's really replacey
now.
So that's an interesting point.
It is.
So then, yeah.
So what do you do? Like, what do you like to use the overheads for? Cymbals or the whole kit?
Yes. It
Yes, to both.
It depends on the genre.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah, like
it's always that.
Yeah, and how even EQing, like how scooped, right?
Yes.
Like pop and stuff, you'll scoop it harder. For rock, I'll leave it all more round. Even the kick, am I high passing the kick out, or is it is it happening after the samples and all that kind of stuff, right? So it depends on the style for sure, and how dense the mix is. The more dense a mix gets, the more the overheads disappear into it for me. I notice.
Yeah.
Until it just crashes and rides. And even then, I'll unmute the ride now. Where 10 years ago, you'd never unmute a ride.
And that is if you mic the ride separately.
Yeah. And now I start to because I know I'm going to need it because I can't turn the overheads up enough. Right? And same with even hi-hat. I find myself using the hi-hat mic more now because the overheads are so soft that in that verse, I need it for 8 bars or whatever, right?
Yeah, totally.
So it is interesting. Okay, so you start with the overheads.
Yeah.
Do you start processing them, or do you bring other things in before you mess with the overheads?
Honestly, first I want to get a good drum sound without any processing to begin with. So I'm going to bring up the kick, the snare, check out the phase before moving on, making sure that the relationship between overheads, the snare, is good, Huge. And for the kick, sometimes, there's a bit of tweaking to do. But if I have to high pass a bit of the overheads, the kick doesn't matter that much.
Solves it fast.
So it's mainly the snare I focus on for phase.
And I find the other one I find is pulling the kick out EQ wise out of the overheads. Like that. Yeah. That's a huge for me. You can usually find it. Like its fundamentals right there, big mound of And so you just carve that out and suddenly your kick.
Totally.
We talked at one point, and I think you said you don't, but you don't time align. You don't move overheads.
I don't.
See, I always do.
I said I don't.
Always do.
It's not totally accurate. If it helps, I will. It's not something I do all the time, but it's not something I have a reflex to do right away.
Always do it.
Why?
Because it always sounds better. If I find a snare in the overheads and a snare on the snare, and the second I snap them together, the drums change, like audibly change. Try it.
I did. Trust me.
Try it more.
That's funny because
watch me try it.
Was it like? It's funny because one of my friend, I think Jesper, you remember Jesper, right? Yeah. So he talked to me about the hi Jesper.
Hi Jesper. I haven't seen Jesper in a long time.
I know, me too.
He's in Montreal, right?
Sherbrooke.
What's that? sounds like a dessert.
It's a town in Quebec.
Oh, okay. Everything sounds like food out there. Every word you say, French word, sounds like a wine or a cheese or a dessert.
Oh, we need to go to Montreal. I need to show you around.
Does Sherbrooke sound like a beautiful dessert wine?
Oh my gosh,
a nice Sherbrooke after.
It sounds more like a whiskey.
Yeah.
Or, bourbon or something.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. A beautiful dessert, but it's a little bit sweet.
There you go.
Yeah.
But he was telling me about the time align. There's a plugin that does everything for you to time align. Yes. He loves it. He's like you for that,
Yeah.
And I tried it once.
I tried that once too.
And I was like, doesn't do anything for me.
I found that just manually that one move. Overheads to the snare.
Yeah, but the thing I fix the phase up when I record, and then I fine tune before I start mixing. So it's like it's right there.
But
so
it makes sense if you hit a snare and a millisecond later another snare happens.
Yeah, but it's part of a room sound, the distance.
But it's not. The room is the room. I won't bring the room in. I let the room stay out. But that little awkward distance isn't enough to be pleasant.
I guess it's a case by case thing,
I'm telling you, it's not. It's a no case by no case.
Like
somebody
for me,
in Sherbrooke,
as long as the phase is right, even if they don't align, I don't think it matters.
Type in all caps, Jesper.
This is where we disagree.
Help my friend.
We disagree on something.
We do. Just because you're wrong. It's not that we disagree. You just don't know yet.
You're just pretending I'm wrong,
It's like you talking about food.
I'm the drummer
here. I don't like that. You're like, you do like it. You just don't know you like it yet. Every time you tell me about some food you've had, I'm like, I don't like that. You're like, you've just never had my version.
My version,
or you've never had it in Montreal or whatever, right?
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah.
So,
Socialism works, I
love this.
Yeah, we never tried it our way.
So fun. You just don't know yet. I tell my kid that all the time. You don't like tomatoes yet, But you will. Once you're smarter. All right. So you don't necessarily.
By the way, I'm not saying that you're wrong.
Thank you.
Okay.
I'm not. I'm saying you are wrong.
People, I know you do.
Misaligned is misaligned.
People, some people do align stuff. Some other people don't care.
In everybody else's defense, we've listened to music our entire life without a DAW time aligning the overheads.
Exactly.
They just went on the tape where they went.
And it turned out pretty good.
And they hit play. Yeah, lots of people with lots of more money than us.
And people are still wanting to go back to that sound.
Yeah, I was going to say, people have had big, nice careers without ever time aligning overheads to their snare. Dang it. You're right. I don't need to do it. How come you're always right?
Hey, I didn't say anything.
I thought I finally had you, and then I argued myself out of my own point.
No, honestly, I don't think that's something wrong with that.
Thank you.
I'm probably going to try it out.
Yeah, you are.
Of course I will.
Yeah,
That's what I do. I try stuff up. If it works, I keep it.
After you try it, leave a comment under this video.
On the John.
Yes.
The Canadian.
Yes, you and Jesper will be fighting it out. So phase is awesome and important. Alignment's questionable at this point. So you've got your overheads open.
Yes.
Snare next, kick next. Both.
Yeah.
What do you open up next?
Next, maybe room, maybe toms. It depends how I feel.
Sorry. So overheads, yes. Only overheads.
Yeah.
What's next?
Kick.
Kick is next.
And then snare. I would say, actually, it could be. I don't know. It's like they're both go in together. Honestly.
And you're still not processing.
You're
just opening them up.
I do that for the whole mix.
Man, I don't know how you do that.
I'm like, no, I can't.
I twitch.
I want to have the drum sound,
man. I have to start processing.
Poor you.
The second I open the kick, I'm like, I got to make this kick work.
Oh, I make it work right away with balance first.
Yeah.
Bring in the bass once the drums are well balanced. The vocal, I want to have everything going on, like a rough mix.
Interesting.
With whatever's on the tracks right now.
I love that to just sound like an amazing drums.
Yeah, I'll do that after.
I do it
because after I mute everything and just unmute as I go.
Oh.
But I have I can even take that rough mix that sounds good as it is with balance, bounce it back, just to have a reference where I started from, and compare after and see how good I am.
You're a talented overachiever. It's never occurred to me to do that.
This is where I started from. Oh. This is where I ended up at. It's cool. It's fun.
That would be nice.
Rewarding.
I might feel good about myself.
You would feel better.
I would definitely feel better. The bar is not high. It's a war zone in here.
And then I'm going to start EQing. I want to make sure afterwards, before I even add samples or decide to add samples, because it's something else, I'm going to start EQing the kick, the snare, do the all EQ thing on the drums, make them sound good with what I have, the best I can. And then I decide, okay, can I enhance that with more, blend that with a sample or stuff,
Because I will. I'll get the drums, I'll get the drums singing. Before samples, typically it's, so I'll get the drums sounding great. I picture them in my head. I picture, like we talked about the other day, I picture this drummer, and she is in this room because I know the band is this, and I create that character in my little mix story.
Sure.
And so she's in this small room, or she's in a big room, or she's in the bottom of a well, or wherever she is. And I kind of build this sound of this drummer. And so that's where I start tweaking right away. Mm-hmm. And then I start adding people to that sound, where you do the opposite. You get everybody, and then you start bringing them together. That's interesting.
Exactly. I want to bring people together right away.
Is this the episode where we just hate each other all of a sudden?
Probably.
This was Chris and Steve studio stuff with nobody.
With blank.
2 empty chairs. So, all right. So for me, I get the drum sound going, and then you're right. And then I start bringing samples in. Mm-hmm. But as I'm building the drum sound, in my head, I am doing it thinking about samples. You don't.
It depends.
Because I'm going, I have that one that I think.
Honestly,
so I'm not going to do too much with this because I know that's going to that. So I'm going to spend my time on the ghost notes because I know the sample's going to cover that ring that I like to hear at 800 or whatever.
If I'm dealing with a bad drum recording, I'm going to, of course, look at samples right away very soon in the process.
What about a good drum recording?
But a good drum recording, we're going to make those drums to sound like the best I can right away.
That's the one Gilder did.
Yeah.
Hi, Joe.
Hey, buddy.
So Gilder's drum tracks. What % in the last year have you not added samples to? Like this percent doesn't have samples.
Maybe 10%.
Yeah, same.
You know, something like that.
And so that's where I resigned myself right from the beginning.
Yeah, because
that
for
samples
me,
will make this better.
For me, samples are like, it's like a plug-in for me. It's not necessary to replace.
Correct.
Unless it's a bad recording, the kick is like so bad, I need to replace it.
Correct. But Gilder tracks,
but
you're just going to sweeten it in.
Yeah, exactly. And you want to be, okay, that kick, instead of adding too much EQ, I don't want to over EQ stuff.
Yeah.
So maybe adding a sample just to beef a bit more of the tone, maybe to get something fatter or brighter or darker.
Yeah.
Or something you can add during the choruses.
Exactly.
Or stuff like that. You play around, especially with snares and stuff and kicks. And it's like, you know, toms, and even toms, it depends. Sometimes the toms sound so good. I just need to gate them properly. And this is what I'm going to use. Not even with samples.
I went through the tom sample era like 10 years ago or whatever. Where I'm like, I got to replace all the toms, and I go in and clip them out and the triggering things, and it's amazing. In the last year, I'm at like 0% tom replacement.
There you go. I don't blame you.
It's weird. I let that go one day, and I was like, these sound great.
Okay, but you need to try
do a little bit of work
on top of that. You know, with toms, something that can be cool. You can gate them. That's one thing.
Sure.
Okay. And I think the best plugin by Black Salt Audio, their gate, the drum gates.
I don't need to try it.
It's
awesome.
awesome.
In my template.
Yeah, there you go.
1,000%.
Yeah.
And I think I got it because of you.
Because you saw my face
I
on
saw
probably one of the ads.
beard on an ad.
It's great.
And I think
awesome.
it was before I even knew you in real life.
Seriously?
Yeah.
Wow.
It was.
That's possible.
Yeah. And it was like that little 5-second silencer thing. And
but for me,
silencer spelled weird. I think it's missing a letter or something
like that.
Something cooler than
But you know, on the kick, on the snare, like for me, it's a go-to.
1,000,000%.
Always,
it's on the template.
You know? On toms, it depends. Because sometimes what I like to do, it's a bit more work, manual work. I just chop those hits.
Same.
But I keep the in-betweens. And I just bring them down. I clip them down.
Oh, so I just mute them.
It's kind of there's a room sound also. Sometimes a bit too dark. Sometimes it just fits well. But you know, sometimes I want to keep that into the drum sound. I just bring them. Honestly, like lately, the past couple of years, I tend not to do that as much as I did. But it's a cool thing to check out though. If you want to get a more natural type of sound.
I'll tell you a fun one.
Go ahead.
Toms. So I'll go through and do the tab to transient clip thing, and then I'll keep the stuff in the middle. Typically I just mute it, but it's there if I want it for some extra warmth or whatever. Then it's silencer is always on the template, but I also have Soothe on there.
Yes.
And so after the EQ and everything, Soothe at the end then takes the cymbals back out. So it's an interesting thing. Like even when silencer opens and the EQ, and then I can brighten toms as much as I want, and the cymbals don't suddenly turn on and off. So the Soothe thing, the Soothe was a fairly recent tom channel.
That's a powerful plugin.
That's and it looks beautiful. There's to that.
It's nice to work with.
Pretty plugins.
I know.
It's so stupid.
I know, but you know,
we're grown men. You got me with the looks.
Mixed with your eyes.
Mixed with your eyes. What could go wrong? How do you? We're just all over the place per usual. How do you de-brighten overheads?
De-brighten overheads.
That's good English, by the way.
It is. It's awesome.
Warm up is the
But first of all, you know, like you EQ. Like for me, it depends. Like it's just an EQ. If it's like a permanent thing, it doesn't spike once in a while. It's just an EQ. Yeah. If it's something that appears like once in a while, dynamic EQ or Soothe or whatever can work.
Dynamic EQ. Yeah, that's that thing again.
Again,
I've missed all these years of using dynamic EQ.
It's
and
great.
It's made just for the stuff we talk about all the time.
It's
great. We should
know. There's that. And what about hi-hats? We talked about that on the recording.
Just mute them.
It's there.
They're just muted.
It's there.
What do I do with them? I mute them.
It's like, you're part of the team, but you're not going to play.
Yeah.
Well, I can have you play maybe, to get your signature on the cup, but that's it.
When you put me in, just any minute now. Sit quietly, hi-hat. You're good. Any day now. Oh, hi-hat's been waiting 25 years to go in a mix.
Can I be on the chorus? No, you're annoying in the chorus, actually.
Let's
keep it for the drop bridge.
Poor hi-hat. Aw. And there's so much work as a drummer, hey? Just managing hi-hats in real life with the pedals and the stands and the things and
It's a whole thing.
It's
man.
a whole thing, and he just sits there. Nobody even cares for him.
I know.
Poor guy.
So there's that. And what about routing?
Yeah, routing's a fun.
So you have like, okay, let's say, before we get to the routing part, let's get back to the samples.
Yeah.
How many samples you use?
This is an interesting. I was going to ask you this one too.
Oh, cool.
My template has multiple. I think in per instrument. So I don't know what you're asking. So at the end of the day, there's the kick option, the snare option, and the tom options, right?
Yeah.
For each of those, there's several. So for me in my template, I think I have 5 kicks. They're always loaded.
Yeah.
And they're named in ways that I know what they are.
Sure.
Same with snares. I'll have 5 snares. And like now it's like, you know, snare, thump, snare this, snare that. And now it's like my template I was using last night. It's like snare new 1, snare new 2, snare new 3. So there's like 7 now. And as I find new ones, they just become like new 4.
Oh, that's good.
And now I know what those are
it.
just by looking at it. Like, oh, 3 was good. That was a cool thing.
I love it.
And so it's pretty funny. But yeah, that to me, it's a huge blend gig. Like some people go into, you know, trigger or whatever and stack them. But for me, it's always just faders. And so then I can just unmute and mute. And so even as I'm building, I'll just take the snare, just copy it down to everything. So it's just there. I can just quickly just go through and be like, yeah.
Sure.
Oh, maybe. And a touch of this little thumpy guy to add some, and whatever. And then this, you know, I have one that I just call it verb send. So I have a snare that just goes to the snare reverb.
Okay.
And so it's kind of just this cracky thing that's consistently feeding the
reverb.
The snare reverb.
That's his job.
And so so that guy's there. And
something I like to do with, because I do the same. I have several several reverbs, but several samples. One is going to be fat, more on the fat side, a bit more dark. One is going to be a little like maybe thinner and brighter.
Yep.
I can EQ my snare with that.
So funny. Mine's called thump for low and snap for
so
high.
Cool.
Yeah, so it's funny.
Stuff like that. You blend those over, you know.
Yep.
So I use trigger too, you know, to load the sample. So it's I have like a preset in trigger with all the regular samples I like to use.
Yep.
And I also use room samples, especially the snare. So instead of maybe on top of using a reverb, and sometimes that's all I need is just a good room sample, and that's it. This is going to be my main reverb for the snare.
Interesting.
It's great.
And kick too.
Same.
I have a sample called Kick Room.
And I think they work even better than adding a reverb, especially for kick.
Kick is great as a room.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it reacts so different. Just the way it kind of blooms up and
Exactly.
it's natural.
Exactly.
Kick, that a reverb is weird with a kick.
It is.
And you hear the high bit of the kick in the reverb and not the room, which is what you actually want, right?
Totally. So that I use a lot.
Okay, so and then toms, just they've fallen off. Like they're in my hide and they're in my hide folder over there, my hide list. They're hidden and deselected and I just stopped.
And do you use also on top of that? Do you use room reverbs on like an aux or an FX channel?
Yes.
And what do you feed it with?
Every channel of the kit has, I have like the room, the small, the medium, and the large.
Yeah.
Is kind of what I have for my drums.
Yeah.
And then it's all down there going to my drum bus. So I can just unmute any of those and it just kind of goes instantly. And so I'll quickly just select all, send everybody to the room, and then kind of turn that down or whatever.
Okay, cool.
So that's always there. And that plug-in itself changes often. Right? Like it's just like, oh, well, how did I ever use this? It must be the FabFilter R.
Exactly.
That was the only answer. And then a week later, I'm like, that doesn't work. And some of those weird, like the UAD.
They have nice rooms.
Some of those rooms are great.
They are awesome.
To use,
Was the Capital one?
Ocean Way.
Ocean Way is great.
Ocean Way is great, man. You start moving mics around in there, and I'm like...
UAD are great for rooms.
Yeah, and it's different than a reverb.
Yeah.
It does its thing.
And if the drums were recorded in a very small, tight room, but still had like an overhead... not an overhead, but a room mic. But that room mic is like, it's not going to give you that big sound anyways, because it's in the same room. It's that small,
it's
tight
just more
room.
Chaos.
I take that room, that room mic track, and I insert straight that UAD
100%.
plugin.
And then EQ it.
Yeah,
in a way.
And use the mic option within the plugin, not the reverb one.
Not the reverb one.
Yeah, so you can emulate.
Remic.
The remic. There you go. That's the one.
Yeah, and then EQ that.
That's great.
To feed that thing well.
Yeah.
And that's a big part of it for me.
Totally.
Is I'll play with that EQ for a long time. And suddenly that room does a thing when you take the wrong frequencies
There's a lot you
out.
can do. A lot you can do with...
You can go far with that thing.
Oh, yeah.
And it's...
Freaking... I was like, you know...
You just leaned... And like your response was freaking... Like that's like the pinnacle of Chris anger. Freaking...
This is when I go over the top, you know?
Yeah, sorry, man. You're just going to send an email later. Like, sorry, I lost it there, man. Sorry,
I feel ashamed.
Sorry,
man.
I lost it in front of you, buddy. Freaking. Oh, my goodness. So, buzzing. So, we've got, so you've got all these things and reverbs and stuff and all. It's all going. Do you, like, I submix. So, I have like a kick bus.
Yeah.
And
Same.
then a snare.
Same.
Do you have anything else? I have kicks and snares and then everything else.
Kick, snare. Okay, I have kick, snares, toms.
Oh, what toms I do?
Yeah.
So I can mess with panning.
Yeah.
You're right.
And I group, of course, I'm going to group the overheads
And
if
then
they're not on a
overheads.
stereo
Yep.
track anyway, so I'm going to group them.
Yep.
And yeah, so I end up with like these 4 main.
Yeah. And then those feed kind of the drum.
Yeah. And then this is what I feed the rest, you know. So I have like, on top of that, I'm going to have like I call it the New York parallel channel.
Mm-hmm.
And I have on this one a compressor that is like over compressing the stuff, and I just use it in parallel. And I feed
crush.
Yeah, and I feed the kick and snare.
The crush bus.
Mainly,
Yep.
yeah.
Yep.
And sometimes toms.
Yep.
Also, but that's it.
And
that's all it does.
We're in the weeds. Sorry, Mom. So do you?
Hello, Steve's mom.
Hi, Mom. Your mom left. She had stuff to do. I couldn't believe Chris said that language. Just turn it off. Chris's anger came out again. I taught him better. He almost fell on the floor, Chris's mom.
Oh my gosh.
So I've got all. How do you handle reverb then?
Okay. Yeah,
Right?
that's a good one.
So all this stuff's going into the thing, and then a lot of times I send that to my reverbs. Do you then regroup everything?
Okay. This is how it goes. That's a good question.
Thank you. I've only been doing this a week,
That's
but
the
I'm
first.
learning
After
fast.
9 podcasts, it's the first good question.
I'm learning fast.
You're
like
getting there, man.
episode 9 or something.
It's about time. My goodness.
I've made a horrible mistake.
Oh, I was about to call Joe, to
I
replace
was
you.
going to say, Joe. Hi, Joe.
I need help, Joe. So, okay, so I have like my main groups: kick, snare, overheads, and toms.
Yep.
Then these will go into a drum bus.
Right.
Okay, but it's still not my main drum bus.
Okay.
Okay. From this drum bus, I'm gonna have all my my parallel also.
Same.
Okay,
Yeah.
New York is gonna go into this
Yeah.
bus, and that bus can also have parallel processing on top of that.
Agree.
Okay. Both of these channels are gonna go into my main mixed drum bus. That is gonna be the final one.
Yep.
Before hitting the mix bus.
Yep.
Now the reverbs.
Yeah.
I have 2 choices.
Yep.
I can take these reverbs, and there's no wrong answer, but I can take these reverbs and send them into the first drum bus.
Yeah.
So that's one.
Yeah.
Or I can simply route them straight into the final drum bus, the mixed drum bus. And lately I've been doing the latter.
Same. Yeah, and I love being able to send the fully crushed and everything signal to the reverb, because it definitely makes for a different sound, right? So like you can pick up, and same, I can pick up the reverbs on the individual things, or I can pick it up on I call it drum sub.
Yeah.
I have drum sub and then drum bus is how I do it.
Okay, cool.
Right?
Love
so
it.
yeah, so
Less
then-
confusing.
Yeah, so I can pick it up there, I can pick it up there, and then
So you're saying
sometimes-
that so say that again. Your reverbs.
So reverbs can come from channels. So I have access to my medium room, say.
Yeah.
I can go in and go, this kind of mix is really clean. I just want some medium room on the
Sure.
snare, and I want a little bit on the floor tom, but not the high tom because it's already ringing a lot or whatever. And then it gets fed to the very, very last bus from there. Or I can take the bus above it and send that to the reverbs, and then all of that gets sent down to the bottom.
Without saying anything, without sending anything else to the reverb then, if you do it this way.
Correct. Or I can go to my drum sub and send the whole mix to that medium thing.
Okay, that's one reverb.
Correct. Or sometimes I'll send everything to the one reverb and then add a little more snare to it as well. And that all gets picked up at the very, very last drum
Sure.
bus.
Okay.
So that's to me, been the easiest way to do it.
Oh, that's interesting.
Which is cool.
Because I feed my reverbs before I end up into the first submix.
But sometimes that submix does really cool stuff.
It does.
Sometimes, like having the crush drums going to the reverb makes a really cool
Well, you could
sound.
have a dedicated reverb for that only.
Correct.
Also.
Correct. Yeah, I know. Yeah.
There's so many things, eh? It's crazy.
Yeah.
The
And
only
then it
thing to
changes
pay-
all the time. And then after 2 weeks, I'm like, this was the worst.
Yeah,
who thought of this?
exactly. Yeah, and sometimes we're just
What am I, an animal?
Sometimes exactly.
How did I work like this?
But honestly, sometimes I'm used to the way I route things. So
Same.
like for me, it's easy. But sometimes I was like, am I complicating, like overcomplicating things?
Yes.
Probably.
Yeah.
It's like
and technology's changing,
for sure.
but I'm still doing what I did 7 years ago.
Because it works.
Because I just go fast.
That's the speed, man.
I go fast.
Yeah.
And then some guy mixed down online, I've got a better idea.
Of course.
And then I'm like, that's a pretty good idea.
Yeah.
And then I either
And this is
do
when-
it or I
this-
forget.
And this is when you understand why your mix sucked that much
That's why.
after all those years.
Just because of my routing.
Man.
Oh, it's my routing,
I
not
should've
my
listened
lack
to
of
Chris
talent.
But there's so many ways, so many things, so many approaches, and even at some point I was experimenting between, okay, what do I do with these reverbs? Okay, like I said, they go straight to the final drum bus, but they could also go straight into the sub mix bus also and process that over, with like parallel processing on top, So there's that too. It's going to give you a different vibe,
Yep.
And I remember in my mixing course, I was explaining that, and I tried both ways, so it's kind of a personal thing at this point. The only thing to pay attention to is to make sure the relationship between all the tracks work well together. So you don't end up doing some automation on the snare and stuff, and now it kind of breaks that sand relationship with the effects and stuff like that, so...
Post fade.
Yeah, the post-fading
Everything
relationship.
post-fade.
Yeah, it's like, just making sure that... so that's why sometimes VCA faders can help.
Yeah.
Or if you just use group track like we do. Yeah, because I used to do a lot with VCA faders, but then I kind of, just use group channels and aux and stuff, so...
And just copying channels down.
Yeah.
Just make a new snare channel for the
Exactly.
chorus. Just flip and it's done.
Exactly, it's done. That's
Yeah,
it,
it's done
So
with
it's fun, though.
Yeah. And how often, like, are you constantly, I guess we can get to the end of this thing, but how often, you got your drums and they're singing and they're sounding great. How often are you...
Well, hopefully they sound great. We'll see.
I'm assuming.
Yeah. Let's dream a bit.
Yeah.
Let's say they sound
For
good.
conversation's sake, let's say your drum mix sounds great, Slim. And your drummer did a great job.
Whatever,
Whatever.
Sure.
Both those things are true at the same time.
Let's go to fairyland.
Are you going back often and like opening up your drum patient again? Or are you like, man, this sounds great. My mix is sounding great. I'm working on vocals. Are you like, I'm about to print. Oh man, I need to go back to the drums and like,
sometimes
solo them and
no, it's going to be tiny touch-ups at this point.
Yeah,
tiny moves.
The moves are getting smaller.
Yeah,
and I can't tell if
as
that's
you
because
go.
I'm getting better or lazier.
But there's that too.
Or worse. Maybe I'm getting worse.
Maybe your taste is getting worse. And
I'm doing this right
your
now.
standards are falling
I'm
down.
doing this all day.
The bar is lower and lower.
it's on the ground.
That's the only way you can get up. It's like by getting the bar low.
Bar is on the ground. Yeah, I realized that. It used to be like going back and like redoing my drums back in the day.
Wow.
To make them fit. And now I realize maybe I'm just doing them better or whatever.
Yeah.
But now I'm like, yeah, sounds good to me.
But something I like to do though, while I'm mixing the whole drums, sometimes it's going to bring the bass on. I'm not going to wait until my drums are like finished, I have like the final mix of my drums, and the vocals are going to once in a while is going to be on.
That's what I'm doing more. Because I'm jumping out of drums sooner. Now that you mention it, I'm not getting them to 100%.
No,
and
just
then
like,
moving on. I'm getting them close-ish.
Close-ish.
And then moving and then bouncing. Maybe
Does that work?
That's what it is.
So we don't waste time after to redo everything?
Maybe that's what I'm doing.
Yeah, maybe
leaving them sooner.
Probably.
Oh, good job, me.
You're awesome.
It's been a good week of learning for me.
It's crazy.
Any minute now.
Now, what about drum bus processing?
Yeah.
Do you do anything on the drum bus or not really?
I touch a limiter typically.
Oh, okay, you're that guy.
Sometimes there's an EQ there's an EQ that's always there.
Yeah.
I don't always use it. But sometimes at the end of the mix, that's the move.
Mm-hmm.
As you go back, man, I just need to scoop a little bit for the singer or whatever. Or these guitars are all sitting right on this tom fill or whatever. And so that's there. And then there's just I will just touch the...
Okay.
And that's always there, that little limiter there. So I'm mixing into it. As I build the drums, it's still tapping that. And then if nothing else, it's just, I don't hear it. It's just solving my downstream master bus problem of like that big fill like collapsed my entire mix, right?
Sure.
So there's that.
Okay,
there's that.
cool.
Like the drummer of questionable dynamics did a thing once and it
like for me, I don't need to do all that stuff because my drums,
your drums are perfect when you play them
at this point. So it's like,
Gilder tracks.
No, I do use limiting also, barely touching, but also a bit of clipping.
Yep, clipping for sure. And the limiter is in clip mode mostly, right?
Cool.
Like, it's definitely clip.
Yeah. Sometimes I also use saturation, just a bit of saturation on the drum bus.
Yeah.
And if I need EQ, it's there, like you said.
It's there if you
but
need
that's it.
Yep.
It's just something to enhance a bit more of the sound and
more ways to break the
add
mix.
a bit more color and
more ways to break the mix.
Exactly.
That's all I need. More tools, more hammers.
So that covers it for drums, I guess.
It does.